Just as the house fell quiet and the clock blinked past midnight, Daniel Harper turned off the lamp beside his bed. The day had been long and sleep felt close until a soft knock broke the silence. It wasn't loud or urgent, just careful. Almost afraid, Daniel frowned and sat up. At 52, he had learned to listen to small sounds. They often carried the biggest meanings. The knock came again, followed by a voice he knew better than his own thoughts. "Dad, it's me." 'Twas Ethan, his 19-year-old son, home from college for the summer. Daniel hadn't expected him to be awake this late. Daniel opened the door. Ethan stood there in a hoodie, his face pale, his eyes unsure. He looked younger than usual, like a boy again instead of the confident young man Daniel was proud of. "What's wrong?" Daniel asked gently. Ethan swallowed. "Can we talk? It's about Mom." That single sentence changed the air. In the hallway, Daniel felt his chest tighten. Laura, his wife of 26 years, had been distant lately. Quiet dinners, late work nights, a phone always turned face down. Daniel had noticed, but he had chosen not to ask. Some truths felt too heavy to lift. They sat at the kitchen table. The house smelled faintly of coffee and rain from an open window. Ethan stared at his hands. "I didn't mean to find out," Ethan said. "But I saw something. Messages. And then I saw them together." Daniel didn't speak. He waited. "There's someone else," Ethan whispered. I think Mom is seeing him." The words landed slowly, like snow that hides sharp ice beneath. Daniel closed his eyes. Memories rushed in: road trips, shared laughter, late-night talks with Laura about dreams and disappointments. He had loved her deeply. Maybe he still did. "Who is he?" Daniel asked, his voice steady but distant. Ethan hesitated. "His name is Mark. He works with her. I saw them at a cafe in Seattle last week. They looked close." Daniel nodded once, thanked his son, told him none of this was his fault. Ethan left the kitchen with tears in his eyes, and Daniel stayed behind, staring at the dark window. Outside, the rain fell harder. That night, Daniel didn't sleep, and somewhere across the city, Laura was, awake to wondering how long the truth could stay hidden. Part 2. When Hearts Speak to Late Morning came softly, like it didn't want to interrupt the tension in the house. Laura moved through the kitchen carefully, as if each step might crack something fragile. She poured coffee, hands trembling slightly, and froze when she saw Daniel sitting at the table. He looked calm. "We need to talk," he said. She sat down slowly. She already knew. Somehow, she always knew when the quiet ended. Daniel didn't accuse her. He didn't raise his voice. He told her what Ethan had seen. He told her how it made him feel small, replaceable, forgotten. Laura listened with tears in her eyes. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said. "I felt invisible, Daniel, for years." Mark just listened. Daniel nodded. He understood more than he wanted to admit. Life had pulled them apart little by little. Work, routine, unspoken disappointments. Love hadn't vanished, it had just grown tired. "I still love you," Laura said softly. "But I don't know what kind of love it is anymore." That was the hardest part. Not the betrayal, but the uncertainty. They agreed to take space. No shouting, no blame. Just honesty. Days passed. Then weeks. Daniel found comfort in long walks near the water. He talked more with Ethan. They healed together, quietly. Laura moved into a small apartment nearby. She ended things with Mark, realizing, too late, that attention wasn't the same as commitment. One evening, months later, Daniel and Laura met again, not as husband and wife, but as two people with shared history. They talked. They laughed softly. They cried. There was no clear answer, only a choice waiting to be made. As they stood to leave, Laura touched Daniel's hand. "Do you think we can find our way back?" she asked. Daniel looked at her, the woman he once knew, and the stranger she had become. "I don't know. he said honestly. But I know this whatever happens next has to be real. They walked away in opposite directions, hearts still connected by years of love and pain, and somewhere between regret and hope. Their story remained unfinished, waiting for time to decide what love would become next. Morning came quietly, as if the house itself was unsure how to face the day. Daniel woke before the alarm. Light crept through the curtains, soft and pale. For a moment, he forgot everything. Then reality returned all at once. The kitchen talk. Ethan's words. Laura on the couch. The truth sitting between them like a wall. Daniel got dressed and moved through the house without sound. Laura was already awake, sitting at the dining table with a mug of coffee. She was not drinking. Her eyes were tired. They looked at each other, not as a married couple starting a normal day, but as two people standing on opposite sides of a choice they never planned to make. I'm taking the day off, Daniel said. Laura nodded. So am I. They did not eat together. They did not talk more than needed. When Ethan came down later, they acted calm, careful not to pull him deeper into the pain. Daniel hugged his son longer than usual before Ethan left to meet friends. Laura watched from the doorway, guilt written clearly on her face. When the door closed, the house felt empty. Daniel spoke first. We can't pretend nothing happened. Laura agreed. I know. They talked for hours. It's not about small things, but about the years behind them, the times they stopped listening, the moments they chose comfort over honesty. Laura admitted that her connection with Mark had grown slowly. It was never planned, but it became something she did not stop. Daniel admitted he had pulled away without noticing, thinking love would stay strong on its own. No one defended their mistakes. No one tried to win. By evening, they made a decision. Not a final one, but a necessary one. I think we need space, Daniel said. Not anger, not punishment, just room to breathe. Laura nodded through tears. I'll stay with my sister for a while. They told Ethan together. He did not ask questions. He hugged them both, his eyes heavy with worry, but also relief that the truth was no longer hidden. Laura left the next morning with a small suitcase. The sound of the car pulling away felt louder than it should have. The days that followed were strange. Daniel returned to work but moved through his hours like a shadow. At night, the house felt too quiet. He cooked simple meals. He walked after dinner, letting the cool air clear his head. Sometimes he felt anger. Other times, sadness. Most of the time, he felt tired. Laura stayed with her sister across town. She ended things with Mark. The conversation was short and clear. She realized that what she felt was not love, but escape. The moment the secrecy was gone, the connection lost its meaning. She did not tell Daniel right away. She knew it would not fix anything. Weeks passed. Daniel and Laura spoke often, but briefly. They talked about Ethan, about bills, about practical things. They avoided deeper topics, afraid to open wounds that were still healing. Ethan watched both of them closely. He grew quieter, more thoughtful. Daniel made sure to spend time with him, going on drives, talking about school, about plans. He wanted his son to know that families could bend without breaking. One evening, months later, Laura asked Daniel to meet her, just to talk. They chose a small cafe near the water. Neutral ground, public, but quiet. When Daniel arrived, Laura was already there, sitting by the window. She looked different, calmer, sadder, maybe, but more honest. They spoke like strangers at first. About work, about Ethan, about the weather. Then the silence stretched, waiting to be filled. I ended it, Laura said finally. A long time ago. Daniel nodded. I figured. I didn't do it for us, she added. I did it because I knew it wasn't right. Daniel respected that. He appreciated the truth, even if it came late. They talked about counseling, about whether love could be rebuilt or if it had changed too much. Daniel admitted that trust did not return easily. Laura admitted she did not expect forgiveness, only clarity. As the sun lowered over the water, Daniel felt something surprising. Not certainty, but peace. He realized he did not need answers right away. "I don't hate you," he said. Laura's eyes filled. "That means more than you know." They stood to leave. Outside, the air was cool and gentle. Laura touched Daniel's hand, not asking for anything, only acknowledging what they had shared. "Whatever happens," Shay said, "thank you for being honest with me. Even now." Daniel nodded. "We both deserve that." They walked in different directions, but without bitterness. In the weeks that followed, life slowly found a new rhythm. Daniel focused on himself. He exercised more. He reconnected with old friends. He learned how to sit with his feelings instead of pushing them away. Laura moved into a small apartment of her own. She spent time learning who she was without hiding. Ethan adjusted too. He grew stronger, more mature, shaped by a truth he never wanted but learned from anyway. Months later, Daniel and Laura met again, this time with less fear. They spoke openly. Sometimes the talks ended in tears, sometimes in laughter. There was no promise, only honesty. One evening, standing outside after another long conversation, Laura asked softly, "Do you think we still have a chance?" Daniel looked at her carefully. Not at the memory of who she was, but at the person she had become. "I don't know," he said. "But I know this: whatever we choose next has to be real. No hiding, no silence." Laura nodded. "I agree." They did not rush. They let time do what it needed to do. Their story did not end with a clear answer. It ended with something better: truth, respect, and the understanding that love, even when broken, can still teach people how to be whole again.